Okay, well, good morning, 7th grade. I hope you all are doing well. On this Monday morning, we're actually going to start with some review. So we're going to go back to 11.3 and do some review because really 11.3 and 11.4 are two birds of one stone, really two birds with one stone. I don't know. They're the same exact lesson, pretty much. One is addition, one is subtraction, but you have to do the same when you have negative numbers. So this is very important because you will use this for the rest of math. Okay, so that's why we're taking a review on this, because if you don't understand this, it's going to be very hard. And I have some 8th and ninth graders sometimes that still struggle with this, and it really affects their grade. Okay, we miss a lot of these signs when adding and subtracting or multiplying, as we'll get to later. So let's just start with something basic here. What if they give me -6 plus 19? Okay, now I explained it the way Bob Jones explains it. I don't think it's the best way. I think it actually confused some of you on the homework. So I'm gonna go with the way I learned, because that seemed to make more sense to me, and maybe will make more sense to you. Okay, here's the key part. When I look at this problem, the first thing I noticed is what? One sign is positive here, and one sign is negative. Okay, 1n, 1p. Okay, when you have that situation, no matter how big the numbers are, no matter what order they're in, you always subtract. Okay, no matter what. It never changes. Okay, it's a law. If you have one negative here, which in this case is right here, one negative, and you have one positive, you will always subtract. It literally never changes. You don't have to guess. Ever. Ever. No guessing allowed, okay? One negative, one positive, you always subtract. And you always subtract with the bigger on top and the smaller on the bottom, no matter what. It doesn't matter which one's bigger, which one's smaller, which one's negative. Always. Bigger one on top, smaller one on the bottom. What is this? That's 13. Okay? Now that I've gotten to that step, all I do is come over here and say which sign, the negative or the positive, is going with the bigger number. So the positive is going to the 19. So I have a plus 19 and a -6. Well, which one is bigger? Obviously, the positive is going with the 19, which means that my answer is going to be positive, so I just leave it as 13. Okay? So let's do another one for an example here. What if I have -4 plus 2? Okay, I come here and I say one is negative, one is positive. So what's going to happen? Subtract. I know I'm going to subtract every time. One is negative, one is positive. So I do 4 minus 2, which is 2. Now I come here and say, which one is bigger? Is 4 bigger than 2? Yes, 4 is bigger, which means I keep the sign of the bigger one. So I'm going to have the answer as -2. Okay, always subtract. Now, there's that. So I hope that will help you, some of you that had the signs mixed up. Now, this is one where I very much don't like what Bob Jones does here. We have -3 plus a -7, okay? Now, this confuses me to try and keep this plus sign and this negative sign. If it works for you, it works for you. But the reality is when we have one positive sign and one negative sign, no matter which order they're in, that is the equivalent of one giant negative sign. So I can actually rewrite this as -3 minus 7. Now, this is why this helps me. Look at this. Here's a negative sign and a negative sign. So here's the rule. When the signs are the same, what do we always do? We always add. It is a rule. It is a law. If the signs are the same, we are adding every single time. So I don't even have to look at the signs. As long as they're the same, okay, whether they're both positive or both negative, I always add. Always, always, always. It's a rule. It's a formula. You can take it to the bank. It will be true every time. So I do 7 plus 3, which is now 10. And this is very straightforward, right? What is the sign? What do they both have? They both have a negative. So all I have to do is bring down the negative, right? These two negatives came right there. That's it. So when I have two negatives added, when I have two negatives, I always add and I always keep the negative sign. Okay, let's do another one just for practice sake. So let's say it's -4 minus 13. Okay, what do I first notice? A negative and a negative. What does that automatically mean? That automatically means I'm going to add them. So I come over here and do 13 plus 4 is 17. Now I say, what is the sign? Well, they both have negative. So that makes it very straightforward. I just keep the negative, and my answer is -17. Okay, it's a rule. You can take it to the bank. count on it every single time. So let's do a little more complicated one here. What happens when we have multiple steps? What if we have negative 13 plus 17 plus a negative 4? Okay, now the key part in this is always to do one step at a time. So I'm going to do these guys first. What signs do I have? I have a negative and a positive. Okay, what does that mean I'm going to do? Instantly, I know that means I'm going to subtract. Okay, that's the rule, always. So I come over here and do 17 minus 13, which is 4. Now I keep the sign of the bigger one. Which one's bigger? Is 17 or 13 bigger? Well, 17 is bigger, and 17 has a positive, so it is a positive 4. So now I rewrite this as 4 plus a negative 4. Now again, like I said, what helps me most is to take this thing right here when I have a plus and minus and just make one giant minus sign. So then what I'm left with, 4 minus 4, which is 0. Okay, the answer is 0. Not very hard. You guys can do it. I believe in you. Okay, let's do another one. So we have negative 13 plus a negative 26 plus a negative 9. Okay, now again, what am I going to do? When I see this, that's too complicated for me, so I'm just going to do one giant minus sign. And look what I'm left with, negative 13 minus 26. And look over here, again, a plus and a minus. What I'm going to do, one giant minus sign. So that comes down here as minus 9. Okay, now I do these one step at a time. So I take these guys together, and look what they have. They have the same sign. So what does that automatically mean I'm going to do? I'm going to add every time. So it's 26 plus 13. 13 is 39. But then, what is the sign of both of them? It's a negative. So I have negative 39. So I come over here and write negative 39 minus 9. Now I do this guy. Look what I have. I have a negative and a negative. So what does that automatically mean? I'm going to add, so I do 39 plus 9, which is 48. But look, what sign did we use? We clearly used a negative. So the answer is negative 48. Okay, this will help you in all kinds of this math. Now, in this lesson, we don't have this example, but I'm going to do it anyways. 4 minus a negative 9. This was from our new lesson. Whenever we have this, we just change it every time to be a giant plus sign. Okay, so the answer in this problem will be 4 plus 9, which is 13. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. Maybe do it a little slower here. If I have 6 minus negative 3, whenever I see two negative signs together, I make one giant plus sign, and I get 6 plus 3, which is 9. Okay, so if that helps you, I'm going to do a little illustration here. If we have any number plus a negative number, every time I have this combination or this combination, 9 minus a positive 3. Either way, no matter which order, whether it's plus then minus or minus then plus, this automatically becomes a giant negative. Both ways. And they both equal 6. You see that? It doesn't matter. It becomes a giant negative sign. And if I ever have 9 minus a negative 3, there's no other way to write that, but if I have that, it always becomes one giant plus sign. I get 9 plus 3, which is 12. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. We're going to do some review. We're going to go back now. So here's the homework. It's on page 491. So it's back a lesson, and it's review, but it's really going to tie in with all of the concepts. So if we get this down, we're going to be in good shape for the rest of algebra. So this is 2 through 40 even. I can't tell you how important knowing how to add and subtract negatives will be for the rest of your math career in both middle school and high school. Okay, you'll have to know how to do this. So without further ado, our homework there, 12 through 40 even, and I hope you have a great start to this week. Okay, Mr. H. It's over and out.